Yango Unit 8 final evaluation.
So I'll just start with context. What was the context of the project, client, target audience, outcome, chosen method of delivery, and etc.?
Right, the chosen method of delivery was a shooting game, a 1v1 shooting game, originally with power-ups that you choose. The target audience would be teen to adult. This is because it contains some adult content like blood, guns, and it's overall quite a hard game, not suited for children. Furthermore, the outcomes were, I think, very good. All these things came together nicely to produce an interesting game, and the cowboy theme of the game helped the context of the game, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I get it. What were the initial aims of your project? So what was your basic ideas?
My base ideas, I had three ideas. One was based off of the Avatar: The Last Airbender game, which was a shooting game but you using the powers. I decided against that one because it seemed too difficult after I received some feedback from my friend who knows more about blueprinting than I. I then had another one where it was a 2D game where you basically just ran around and jumped and stuff and tried to avoid things. After some very, very little research about 2D on Unreal, I learned that it would be better for me to stick 3D because I have more 3D things. The idea that I did go with was originally a 1v1 shooting game where you had power-ups that you chose at the start of the game. This changed dramatically because I got rid of the power-ups mechanic due to hitting a roadblock in the blueprinting.
Okay. How did your idea come together for the final product?
How did my idea come together as a final product? I think it came together really well. I started with the movement, then moved on to the guns, and instead of making everything rushed and then polishing it, I opted for making one thing really well, then the other thing really well, and then another thing really well, and putting it together. So for most of my project, I didn't actually have a playable game until I finally finished the last part of my game, which felt very good. So it came together, in my opinion, quite polished, except for the time constraints.
Okay. And that is the context.
That's the context done. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so this is research. How effective was your research? Was it thorough and sustained throughout the projects?
I think so, yeah. I started with a large chunk of research where I made mood boards, sketches, and all of that. It was really helpful for when I got stuck and I needed inspiration. Also, throughout the project, I also continued making research, especially when I'd move on to the next thing. So I'd finish my movement and I'd maybe make the gun mechanics, and I'd do research about COD's gun mechanics and maybe a cowboy gun. And then when I was making my town and such on and such forth.
Okay then. How did you interpret your research? How did you research the development of your project and some other ideas?
Well, I made a lot of mood boards. I made SWOT analysis. I looked through lots of things. I made sketches, and I also went to a cowboy town in Kent to learn more about cowboys and their life. This all really helped, and it helped me just make my game as good as I could within the time commitment. And in how I used it in my game, I did it by, like, if I needed to make my gun, I took my gun, but I 3D modelled my gun and I went to my mood board that I had for cowboy stuff and I looked at guns there, which was very, very helpful.
Alright then, and that is the research.
End of the research bit, okay.
Yeah. This is the planning and production. The first question is, how well did you plan your project?
Oh, I think I planned my project really well. I think this links into research as well. I think they're very tightly knitted. The first thing I did was make a sketch planning out how my game was meant to look. I also saved a list of YouTube videos that I wanted to watch in order to make my game better.
All right then, nice. How did your planning influence production, and how successful was the planning in allowing you to finish your product?
I think the planning was somewhat successful. There was bits where I did plan to do something but didn't manage to do it because I didn't plan well enough. I think a main thing, an interesting way to look at it is I was trying to make a superpower widget that would like choose your superpowers, and I didn't know how to do it, and I didn't think it'd be very hard, so I didn't plan about exactly how to do it, and it ended up not working. And then due to the time constraints, I had to leave it behind practically.
Oh, okay then. How successfully did you use your practical skills in the production?
I think I used them extremely well. I stuck to them as close as I could. There were lots of things that I feel went wrong, so I did have to deviate from my plan. I also had to deviate from my plan because of the feedback from peers. There was a time when my friend Tom said the multiplayer just wasn't interesting, so I changed it to be a zombie wave killing game, which I think made the game much more interesting, and Tom was right.
All right then. What process did you follow, and how successful was it?
What process did I follow? The process I followed was I would do something, I would make a mechanic, make it really, really well, and then I'd move on to the next one, and I'd use my planning to influence what I made and how well I made it.
Oh, nice. Did you conduct any practices, tests, or experiments with your project?
I conducted lots of practices and tests. I actually, I opened an Unreal level as soon as I knew about this, just to see if I could get a simple shooting mechanic working. I also did the same throughout my entire thing. I have every single thing on my OneDrive has every version of it, which is different practices and tests. I would like 2 of more, but since we only had 6 weeks out of the 10 allotted ones, it made it very difficult to have spare time.
Oh, okay then. How well have you worked towards achieving your goals?
I think I've worked extremely well to achieve my goals. I had come in every day after college. I'd come in days when I don't need to, and since I have a computer at home, I have been non-stop working anytime I can, either on Miro or on Unreal. I don't think my time is wasted. Again, I'm going to talk about the little time we had, which is a little bit annoying, but...
Okay then. And that is the planning and production. This is the presentation. How well have you presented and organised your work?
I think very, very, very well. This was something I had struggled with before, especially in Unreal. I hadn't been able to keep folders and keep things in these folders, which made it very difficult to find things. And also organisation in the fact that coming into college every day, but through the FMP 6 weeks that we've had, I have come in every single day, and I have also kept my files organised, which I have shown on my Miro.
Nice. How well have you used your resources to communicate your ideas?
I think I've used my resources very well. The resource I used was Unreal, and my idea was for a shooting game, and that's the main gist, cowboy shooting game. Even though it has deviated quite a lot from what the original ideas were, the core ideas are still there, and I think they've been communicated well.
Alright then, nice. And that would be the presentation. This is the evaluation and reflection. So the first question is, what were the key decisions that you had to make during your project?
Key decisions? Well, I made lots of decisions throughout. I think the main ones that I made were to change the game's superpower system into a buying system, and then also instead of you and another person killing each other, you're killing zombies. And I think they're the main decisions I've made.
Okay. Overall, how successfully have you completed what you set out to achieve?
I think I completed it very successfully. There were lots of drawbacks with what I couldn't achieve, but through the gun system being extremely fun to use, the zombies being scary, the buying shop being very fun to use, I think I did it extremely well.
Okay then. What have you changed and why?
I changed, like I said, I changed the 1v1 aspect of the game and also the superpowers.
Okay. What was particularly successful and why?
One second, can we go back to that question really quick? The reason I changed those things were, the first one, the 1v1 thing was because my friend Tom gave me some feedback saying it wasn't interesting enough and it might be more interesting if you were killing zombies instead. In the superpowers one, because I couldn't get it to work.
Okay then.
Can I have the next question again, please?
Yeah, what was particularly successful and why?
What I feel was particularly successful was the movement system. I spent a couple of days on it and I really tried to make it perfect by tweaking values, and I think it came out really well with the slide, the stamina and the running jumps.
Oh, nice. What would you say was less successful then?
I think the shooting system was less successful. I would have liked to have a more substantial feel. The hand animations I had weren't the best and they make the gun look a little bit silly, but it's pretty good for what time I was given.
Okay. What feedback have you received?
The feedback I've received is from all of my friends and teachers and everything else. I've written it in my Miro and tried to document it as well as possible. Yeah.
And how would you improve or develop the project if you had more time?
If I had more time, I think I'd just polish it. I think it's good. I'd change some animations. I would make maybe the zombie waves more interesting so it gets harder and harder and harder. But that's pretty much it.
Okay then. And
That's all.
Yeah, that's the end of
Okay.
the evaluation.
Yangor, Unit 8, final evaluation.